Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast Real Talk with Sudhanya. And I am your host, Sudhanya. In this podcast, we meet people who are dreamers, achievers, go getters, people who have bigger purpose than themselves, who want to contribute in their life in bigger ways, and yet face challenges just like you and me. Their achievements doesn't make them immune to current challenges or future, and they're open to share it with you and me. And that's what makes them real. And that's what makes this table an open platform to have real talks. Today, our guest is Diederik Veerman, a guy who is fascinated by the restorative power of nature. By being outdoor, he realized that it helps us become more relaxed, creative, and resilient. So he invented an outdoor sport called PULLKA, founded in 2018, where he takes people out into the nature, far away from mobile phones and deadlines. He challenges his clients physically in a unique way and help them to recharge mental energy levels. Besides challenging outdoorsy and sports people, his company PULKA offers growth programs for the corporate world. With keynotes, in company masterclasses, and outdoor sessions, his goal is to reframe their mindset. Not by talking, not by showing, but by offering multisensory experiences. He wants people to become aware of the incredible gains of true connection with the natural world around us and ourselves. Real connections, no matter how small, can enrich us individuals, allowing us to see every living thing, including our body and mind, in its own intricate network. I had super fun discussing his motivation today. So come and join me in this beautiful conversation. Have fun. There are so many things I want to discuss with you, Diederik, and like I think you are an incredible person for the things that you do. But the most incredible one that I'm going to start one is Pulka. So, for the audience, I wanted to share that Diederik has come up with this new sporting outdoor sporting style, which is called Pulka, which I have tried. I'll tell you later, but I would like to know from the horse's mouth, what is Pulka?
Well, Pulka is, on one hand, a new full body movement, method, sport, but based on the most primal movement, the most primal way of transporting people and things, which is the sled. And this is was before the wheel was invented, so it's about 6,000 years old.
Wow.
And this is how when most of many people were still pastoralists, so no semi-nomads. They used to follow nature and follow herd. For example, in northern Scandinavia, but as well as the Native Americans, were even sled on Hawaii.
Wow.
So many people always think about, okay, you have a sled and make a connection because of our culture, visual culture, and what we've seen
It's
as a child with snow.
ancestors. Okay.
But it's also on grasslands as well. But so it's based on that. That's the basic. So
Yeah.
what we do with Pulka, you have this harness, a kind of belt, specifically developed for this, and you have a sled behind you, which we call the pulk, and that's based from an old Sami language. Sami are the indigenous people from northern Scandinavia, and from their language, the word of pulk has been adopted in Norwegian and English language as a better word for a good description for pulk. So what you're actually doing is you drag this pulk behind you, but there are two important aspects. One is you have to be in nature because you don't drag this pulk on the asphalt in the city. So that's also the first major and crucial aspect, that you are in nature. And the second is that sand, beach, dunes, but also other aspect that the area where you're walking, where you do the sports, is immediately also your cargo.
Right.
So when you walk on the sand on the beach, you fill up your pulk with more or less sand. So in one sentence, PULLKA is this full body workout that it's adjustable for many people, depending on their own physical health. And it's more complete than running. It's more safe than running. You can make it more intense than walking.
Wow.
And you have more nature experience than the usual boot camp clubs.
Right. Wow. Like, so it's all in one, that you experience cardio, and also, like, I can say that it's a very tough strength training as well. It doesn't sound that tough, but I've experienced it. And also, yeah, with nature. So, like, and tell me, how is it going? Like, this is like, I think, how long back did you launch it, and how's the following?
Yeah, well, it
across?
was the launch was in January 2018 in The Hague, where we have, of course, a beautiful coastline, a lot of dunes, beautiful beach. And I'm not an entrepreneur. I had to invent it being being an entrepreneur. So it was not made from a kind of really thoughtful plan or kind of marketing or commercial motivation. We'll dive into the motivation later on. But so it was, well, when you only would look to figures, people say, oh yeah, that was a real struggle this first 2 years. But I didn't experience it that because I was just enjoying this movement and this sport, because I was not able to run because of an injury. I was just making a lot of fun and having a meaningful, creating a meaningful sport, and I was happy to share it with people. And sometimes there were 2 people, sometimes 3.
When you started in 2018.
Yeah. And then COVID came, and
and it worked.
And it worked well. In many things, it has been, of course, for many aspects, it has been, of course, a very tough time. But one advantage, not only for PULLKA, but in general, people, even in India, saw, of course, when the clouds and the how in New Delhi suddenly people start seeing the
fog,
and
the pollution related
exactly
stuff.
the air pollution.
Yeah.
So people soon realize, okay, there is nature and we should cherish it. People went more into nature, and that was actually a big chance. And I realized it after this very first lockdown, when it was actually beautiful weather. So many people went outside, and then there were from the Dutch government a lot of regulations that you were not able to do this and do that and not
go to gyms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it was the moment that there was a kind of voice and said, okay, now you really have to push a little bit. And then, so the entrepreneur became a bit more active. And that, it was really making a huge increase in participants. And when during the second lockdown, I was actually, I think, the most visited gym in the country, because I was able to still have pick a PULLKA. So they just came and they get their own kit, their own gear, and they went start training.
Wow.
And that was it was really beautiful. And many of those people are still now member of our coastal gym.
Right.
So it's really beautiful. But the most two things are really making me very happy. First, that these people really make progress,
Right.
physically and mentally, because of being in nature on an active way. And the second thing, and that's how we also, it can be connected with your PULLKA experience, that I'm now, after those 4 years, it's a really good time for me to share the concept with other professional trainers. So I'm now sharing the knowledge and the method. So you experienced it with Gert Noordhoek, a trainer from nearby. Your place is a beautiful area.
Yeah.
So, and there are now 4 trainers on different spots.
Right.
Now also, and I love passing through the method and the knowledge, and so it's going very well. And especially that based on the whole motivation, it's a fulfilling idea.
Yeah, indeed. Like what a perfect timing, because just imagine, like, you thought of it in 2018, and I think by 2 years you were also ready how to scale up. And like when the time came, indeed, like we did not have gyms in the whole of pandemic, and especially in Netherlands, people are sportaholic, by the way. I learned
Some of them.
in general, I think, like, at least my experience in the last 7 years is that most people are like, they do some kind of sport.
Yeah, well, if you look to the data, you become quite sad, because we think that more and more people, of course, many people went outside, but a lot of people also quit because they were used to do football, or you only wanted to go to the gym.
Or do a group activity.
Or do a group activity, or
Yeah.
do a competition. And 100 of thousands people quit their trainings, quit sports. So the sedentary behavior is quite dramatic.
It's back. Okay.
Yeah.
In that sense, like people who started with PULLKA, like also, like, because you have like trainers, you yourself do. So what was the response for people who were coming in to learn? Like they were looking for alternates, or like they really like, what was the motivation, and what do you think, how you can inspire people around who are sedentary?
Well, the primary motivation for people who are just entering and for the first time, as well as the people who are doing it now for 2 years, is and will always be nature.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting.
Okay.
So all people, for example, when somebody sign up or want to have more information, of course, I always talk, okay, what triggered you to hand over your phone number that I can call you?
Yeah.
And say, I really hate the gym. I don't want to sport between 4 walls. And say, okay, I agree, because that's why we have this coastal gym, and that we really can embrace nature. But also for the people who are doing it regularly, we try to also anticipate on the different seasons. So in the winter we have full moon PULLKA. So every month during full
At
moon,
night.
we go at night, and
Wow.
in the summer we have early bird pulka. So at sunrise, we go out, and uh, of course there are different movements that are very suitable when it's dry and hot. So it's more ground movements, and in the winter it's much more making progress with distance. So you keep warm.
Yeah.
So you also feel and your senses are so much more active
Right.
because you have a 360 ever changing
Yeah.
landscape around
Right.
you.
And also, like, what I liked also to share from my own experience with Kert is like it was playful.
That's
You were
important.
like
Yeah.
you. It was like at some point I did not know that I'm working out because I was having fun because there are all these small games. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
also long. It was like almost like 1 hour or even a bit more kind of a session, and there were like all these like starting games, like it was just like normal warm-up games, but then at some point you had to go up the dune and come down with different kinds of resistance. And if you're like a bit smart like me, I did not put a lot of weight on it so that I can survive for 1 year, for 1 hour, sorry. And then I slowly build it up. But by then there were so many other games, and I got into the flow, and I was like, oh, it just flew by, and I had fun, and like it was in the nature and like the fresh air, and you go beyond like that whole thought of like, oh, I have to move. And that might be one of the biggest reason why people don't like to work out. Everybody knows it's healthy, but the fact that yeah, it's like it feels like a big thing, the big to-do list to do, is because of those feelings that it's not fun anymore. And
Yeah.
that's what I felt like is also a very big plus point of PULLKA, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah, I agree more, and but I'm also I see a lot of boot camp clubs, and I don't want to be negative because about it, because the majority of the trainers is very skillful, but I'm really intrigued by the participants, and based on what you're saying, I only see that there's always the same type of movements and training. So a lot of burpees
Yeah.
and lunges
Yeah.
and push-ups, but definitely, especially, it is always a kind of parking lot
Yeah.
or
On a park
in a
or
park or
yeah.
beneath a kind of highway. And I always think, what is that? They have to be. I'm actually also intrigued, but also impressed by the motivation of these participants, because it can't be, in my opinion, that fun.
No. No.
But so I'm intrigued. They have to be very motivated. So I think the trainer should is really good
Yeah.
to motivate these people to come back every week, and that they really track progress.
Right.
But that's from my humble perspective,
Yeah.
and especially like to, and that's what the interesting part, because I'm intrigued by the concept of creativity, and that's actually can be connected with this play mode.
Right.
It's actually a beautiful book called
Yeah.
Play Mode, which is about creativity, and so we try to not make it only functional, but also, like you said, to create and come up with formats that, of course, you are training, but it is time flies, having fun,
Right.
and that's the whole idea. But because we also, to come up with these formats, we and the other trainers should also release all your sometimes rules or your to-dos, and when also dive into this play mode to come
Right.
up with new
To have fun, like I think in
Excellent.
everything, in all of your professions, if that's like almost like a secret sauce. Like if you really want to be good at your job, you actually have to have fun. and then you will be naturally be good, or you will be naturally, time will fly and it won't feel like a burden, and like nature will feel more, you will feel more connected because you're having fun in nature. Like, I have done boot camps, I can relate to that. What you're saying is that, like, for me sometimes I would feel like, oh my god, like, yeah, I need to do because I need to move, but like, I hope these 40 minutes go fast because this is so hard.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's interesting that also that you said this time flight. That researchers found out that during a creative mode, people a lot of things that there will be that there's a lot of much more brain connections, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually the opposite. That the zones in your brain that can be related with self-awareness and time awareness are muted during a creative process. So they found out that when with jazz musicians who were doing improvisation, that they weren't aware or where they are and what the time was and how long they were already playing, and that is very important aspect and factor for being creative, that you forget time and that you forget who you are, or that you say, okay, this idea is really shit,
Very
but that you
interesting.
just actually play with your being in a playful mode, and everything is possible.
And then for you as a coach, as a leader in in the sports industry, as a, a thought leader in this industry, like, what are your ideas about how to get that out from, people, like how to make them move, which is extremely, I think that's your why. Like, I read in your website that, like, you're very driven by, like, you want more and more people to exercise and move, but also you're like talking about this fun aspect, like, and Polka is one of them. So do you like constantly purposely switch on your creative mode, or like get into some kind of a zone to come up with these ideas?
Well, it's not that I write down in my agenda, okay, from 2 to 3 I want to be creative. But being during two modes or two activities when I become creative. One is so being in nature, and then just by doing it, especially also with others, with peers, you develop really cool new aspects, and especially with sharing your knowledge with others. And that's really beautiful that Geert, the trainer where you experience your session, he came up with two new formats.
Okay.
So dare to share your passion with others, and they, from their perspective and their expertise and knowledge and other experience and other landscapes,
Right.
the new
You co-create and expand and become
exactly.
even better at it. Like,
So but that's of course also mentally kind of step. Okay, where can you? When are you able to share your primal idea with others?
Right.
When is the moment that you think, okay, this is should not only be an idea, but we have to transform it to a real concept. And from that, okay, when the concept has established, for the first 2 years I was a trainer, on my own. But then I don't think it was not COVID, but it was before that I had a little fever, and I thought, okay, but now what I'm now doing, because I'm very vulnerable, of course. And that was the moment, of course, well, not of course, but I decided, okay, I will continue doing the teaching, which is very bad, of course. When you're sick, you should listen to your body.
No.
But I adapted a little bit, and the sporters, they did the sport, and I was being very humble in the gyms, and we were very passive. But it's not good, of course,
No.
because rest is very important and recovery as well. So I decided, okay, I don't want to be that vulnerable, and because the concept PULLKA is much more than me, and it's much more valuable. Should not only belong to me, it should also belong to others. So that's why I'm starting up training other crew members in The Hague. So we now have 6 trainers, and so there were now about 12 sessions a week. And last year we had 2,500 people doing PULLKA. And it's not the figures that I want to impress you, but the most beautiful sessions I had was not when I was the trainer, but when I was just actually participating with the people, the trainers who I trained myself.
Yeah.
And that were the most amazing and most beautiful.
And to see a reflection of like, this is something that, you invented, but it has gone so far beyond you, and it's growing and maturing.
Exactly, yeah. But on a just like I said, on an organic way.
Yeah.
Not on the in a scheme of which is probably very much more needed when you have employees and a council and people who are really
corporate-ish.
Exactly. Okay, how are the stocks are going?
Yeah.
That you need to have, of course, a long-term goal and a well-scheduled planning. But actually, for me, I like this idea that it should be grow a little bit organic. And sometimes when you really feel it doesn't mean organic that you just do nothing and it's grow, but that you sometimes feel, okay, this is a good moment to do this.
Yeah, right.
Okay, let's go.
Like to capitalize on the situations and stuff like that. That's really like interesting. I want to even go like you gave us such a big bridge also, like why you think PULLKA is beyond you and that it is something that you wanted to give, and hence you thought of expanding. Like there are like, I want to go outward or inward. Like one is like outward is like, okay, it's now very in Netherlands. So do you have plans to take it outside Netherlands, go international? Do you have plans around that?
Actually, what is interesting that you have a scoop. Well, there was also, it was not planned, but I saw via, I think on LinkedIn, that there was a kind of subsidy from the European Union regarding trademarks. Even PULLKA has been registered as a trademark in the Netherlands and Belgium and Luxembourg, the Benelux.
Yeah.
But it's expensive for this whole European Union-wide thing. I don't have the money for that because it's really based on motivation and based on my savings.
Yeah.
But then there was this interesting part that you as soon as you have developed your plans and you hand them in, the EU would fund 50% of it.
Wow.
So I took that decision. And I think 3 days ago, this process was taking me 8 months actually. But 3 days ago, I got the notification that it is now PULLKA is a trademark in 27 countries.
Congratulations!
Yay!
Like what a what a perfect timing question.
Definitely.
I didn't know this completely. Like I'm like surprised. Like congratulations. So what's the plan?
Yeah, it's a good. Of course, there are not every country in the EU is that suitable for PULLKA, especially when there are. I haven't seen every country, right?
No.
But I think countries like France, like Spain, Belgium, of course, England as well, where there is enough sand, and that can be coastline, but also inland.
Yeah.
When there is enough sand, you can create a PULLKA hotspot,
Right.
and you can give people a kind of immersive nature workout. But again, this is just a side. I'm not doing this full time.
Right. Yeah.
So of course, when I would have win a lottery, perhaps then I can scale up more quickly and launch a kind of marketing campaign and ask trainers or coaches.
This is a great platform, by the way.
Definitely.
So, like, there are so many sports enthusiasts all across the world, and especially like in Europe. Like, yeah,
Yeah, well, and of course,
contact Diederik.
yeah, definitely. No, and but for me, what is really important, I want to feel a connection, and it doesn't. Also to see, okay, what's the motivation of this person to do this? Is it just making money? Okay, then I can disappoint this person because you will not make money definitely in the first year, and also in the end, the first and most important motivation is that people really love nature and want to cherish this nature, because we also do cleanups. So when we see waste somewhere, we throw it in our PULK, and we clean up the mess.
Right.
So that's an aspect, and but especially that you really say, okay, I really love nature, and I love sharing my passion for this natural environment with others.
Right.
And
yeah, because I totally overlooked that big aspect of it as well, like the sustainability aspect. That also you mentioned that you also give these group trainings also in PULLKA, where also you have these cleanup drives.
Yeah.
As well. So which is also contributing. And to be frank, this is a very good time. Right now, just not in Netherlands, but in all over Europe, all over in the world, there is this huge drive for sustainability. People
Definitely.
are ready to do this. So
well,
maybe
actually,
that would be a great marketing campaign to work out and clean our Mother Earth.
Yeah. When I have another, not an offer, but actually a request. When there is somebody, I want to close the loop.
Right.
So now my brother is living in Finland.
Right.
And via him, I'm able to get these PULKs, which is cool to say, okay, they're from Scandinavia. People like this idea.
Yeah.
But I like the idea even more that these PULKs, that we have a kind of circular PULK, which is made from recycled plastics. For example, the plastics that we found on the beaches and in nature, that is turned into new PULKs. So that would be an awesome. It's a long-term goal, but it would be awesome to think about and to elaborate.
What you collect, build your PULKs from that. That would be an amazing idea. So yeah. Yeah.
So that, and actually a friend of me, an older lady, which we were together in Uganda for a different project, but also based on helping people and helping grow people with their own interest. She's now having a kind of small scale, so not a really commercially big wing, but a small scale hotel in Ghana, Africa.
Oh, okay.
And she took one PULK with her because she was also saying the beach is such a mess. And I'm walking every morning, and please, can I have a PULKA gear to clean up the mess. So
It's so beautiful.
yeah, it's just a method of course you can also like plugging. It's
Yeah.
also a very nice movement
Yeah.
that you run and pick up mess as well. But here you can also throw larger pieces of waste also back in your pulk.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's well just something we can add, that we can do well, say for Mother Earth, because the next tide, all these pieces of plastic are just going back to the sea, to the
Back
ocean,
to the ocean, which
and
is
it's really really bad. It's
yeah.
especially the smaller ones, these microplastics, and
Right.
what you at the end even can't see with your eye.
So, like, just a quick clarification. Like, is this workout or like this type of outdoor gym is only you're looking for countries with coastal lines, sands?
No, because for example, you did it in Soest,
Yeah.
which is really very, I think, about 100 kilometers away from the coast.
Yes.
But I'm not uh, that into that geography to say. I don't know how many, for example, sand locations you have in Germany or in Poland or in Romania or whatever. Um,
Like inland countries. Yeah.
Exactly, but definitely when there, as long as it has a soft surface, that it can also
Right.
be earth or forest. But the nice thing of sand is actually that it's soft, but you can also
Scoop
immediately
out.
scoop up and fill it in your pulk, and then
Right.
you can vary really easy your
Resistance. Yeah.
exactly your
Right.
workout. And
Yeah.
but what we're also having people who really focus more on the mental aspect and use the pulk as a metaphor for training. And for example, okay, what your mental luggage, what you're dragging with you, what are your constraints, and what do you want to throw out from your life? What's your destination?
Right.
What you want to take with? So then, so it's not. Perhaps we focus now too much on that's only a
Physical
kind
aspect.
of physical aspect, and it's only suitable for trainers or fitness people. But it's much broader.
Broader, yeah. And I think that's why I wanted to have this chat on Real Talk, because till now we spoke about the physical aspect, and which is, by the way, very important, to move, to exercise, to take care of the environment of Mother Earth, which are like extremely important things to do outside, but there are so many things to do inside. And I think that's a great bridge to go into your real motivation. What made you even invent this whole outdoor sports itself is like, I think the more, I think it's the heart of Polka, and it's, I think, like the core soul of you.
Yeah,
So I want to hear that part of the story now.
yeah. Well, to start, and then we'll do the longest story.
Yeah.
But the core actually is that Polka is my memory, keeping my memory to two friends who tragically died during a polar expedition to keep that memory alive.
Wow.
That's the short version.
Wow.
And the longer version is that these two friends, Mark Cornelissen and Philip de Roo, died during tragically died during an expedition in April 2015 in the north of Canada. And they were there on a scientific expedition created themselves, and the whole idea is really I think fascinating because it was called cold facts. And so you have all these satellites, right, around the Earth.
Right.
And satellites can do a lot of things, and they can also see, of course, when they zoom in and make photographs, they can see, okay, black is water and white is ice.
Okay.
But you cannot see how thick this ice is.
Right.
So you need actually another data set from the ground combining with these satellites.
Yeah.
So Mark invented and developed, he's an engineer. Actually, he was an engineer and he developed his own measurement tools, which are really cool to measure the ice, but also with a lot of technical stuff. And the area where they were is calling the last ice area. And it can be connected with global warming because scientists found out, okay, what happens if we just continue our destructive way of what we're doing with our 7.5 billion people around the world, and that it is going towards 1.5 or 2 degrees extra. Okay, then the multi-year ice will melt. Right. But the last area where there will be multi-year ice is between Greenland and Canada. It's calling the last ice area. It's also designated by the WWF. Is okay, if there is one area that we really should preserve for polar bears, for narwhals, for whales, well, the whole ecosystem, we should put our energy, especially in this area.
To develop the ecosystem.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Because it's such an important ecosystem for everybody. And not only for the animals itself, but also for the indigenous communities, as well as for the whole world, actually. But to convince governments, you need to have, they don't rely on your eyes and beautiful stories and beautiful pictures. There are also people who want to have data. And that was after many years and actually decades of expeditions, that was really the goal. To come up with cold facts. That was the whole project was about. And he had a lot of, it was his purpose. I'm now talking about Mark. And but he had a lot of also difficult, even with his background and his prestige as a public speaker. Also a lot of difficulty finding enough funds.
Right.
So he also put his savings in because he really believed in this
project.
And the whole era of people who say, okay, I'm the first on Antarctica, I'm the first to discover this, that has long gone. So everybody who is now traveling to the Arctic or the Antarctic just to be there, you're actually, in my opinion, when you're only doing it for yourself, you're ruining our planet.
Right.
But if you really can say, okay, this is my added value as a scientist, as a as member of an indigenous community, or as a researcher collecting data, then it's a different story. But all these tourists, there's really, it makes me mad that people fly over the world from whatever to Greenland with jets and then with cruise boats to photograph melting icebergs. I can't.
Yeah, and that's causing more of the...
Exactly.
So the goal is it shouldn't melt to the level it's already melting.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's what was Mark's
ambition.
Goal was in life, to measure and get funded by the government to ensure that there are measures taken.
Entrepreneurs or NGOs. So to go back, there was the second the second mission of this Cold Facts ID. But then on the last day, there was this accident, and the painful thing is that it was the thin ice that was causing this accident, but because of their experience and about 28 days of expedition, it came as a shock for family and friends, and also based on the experience. And then a really intense period
So like
came out.
they were like on this expedition, and like on the last day there was like they sunk into the thin ice. Like, is that something they were not aware of up front?
Exactly, yeah. It was about 400 meters from the coastline.
Okay.
And based on, everybody is guessing, and there's if really people want to know more, a journalist from The Guardian has wrote a very good, well-researched article about the whole event and the purpose of Mark and Philip. So if they want to know more about,
please share the link with me. I would like to
it's
also add it in this podcast
in the show notes. Yeah. So what now the connection with PULLKA at this kind of celebration of life of Mark. I met Tobias, which was a friend of Mark as well, but from a different. He was not into the Arctic. I was from the Arctic community, being a curator in the museum. So I was also with Mark and Philip in Greenland, and also for other projects years before. But Tobias wasn't. He was more from the local. He sports a lot with Mark.
He was a local friend from in the Netherlands.
Yeah, but we had a really good connection, and we became friends, and then we said, okay, should we bring up and share memories to Mark and Philip on this specific day, and not the day that the accident happened. But we thought, okay, what's actually more beautiful day is the day that they start doing what they love to do. That was the start of the expedition. So when it was in Resolute, Canada, and it's not that you enter there and you say, okay, tomorrow we're leaving. It's always a lot of looking to nature. When is the best way, because sometimes it's storm. So sometimes it's too much wind, or too cold, or too hot. So they really had to wait quite some days before they could start.
Right.
But on April 6th was the day that they really stepped onto the ice, and pursuing what they do, what they love to do. Right. So we said, okay, that's a beautiful date actually. And then we said, okay, let's walk along the beach from Hoek van Holland, where Mark sometimes trained, do his physically preparations for the expeditions, and then to The Hague, which is about 18 kilometers. And Philip used to live in Apeldoorn, but the last 2 years he lived in The Hague as well, just as I do. And it's a beautiful distance, not that far. No. But also not 1 kilometer, so you have a bit of time to share.
Challenging enough.
Yeah, but it was even that. But at least that it's long enough to share enough memories. Right. That was good. Yeah. And then Tobias had a beautiful idea. Okay, let's do it in style. Yeah. So he went to the widow of Mark, or Marijke, to ask, okay, can we use some gear of Mark And she said yes. And that's how we were departing on this April 6th, 2016, for the first time with the PULLKA gear on the beach.
Unknowing what will happen in future.
Definitely, yeah. And I did use the PULLKA on the ice cap of Greenland and in the communities, but not on the beach as well.
No.
But that was the first time I did, and it was, of course, it was a beautiful, a beautiful stretch, and where we shared the memories and we laughed a lot. And of course, sometimes, and that's the beautiful aspect, sometimes of this distance, that you don't have to talk all the time.
Right.
Because in a podcast, it's quite difficult now to
can
be quiet for 10 minutes. But during this walk, it can be. It's very. It's nobody is saying, okay, why this silence?
It's beautiful connection.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah. And also the idea that you walk along the ocean, which in the end are connected with the whole world, right?
Right.
And that's actually very interesting. Why Hindu people from the Hague area, many people there, when there is when somebody died, they put in
the ashes
and flowers
in water,
based on the fact that it's also connected with the Ganges and
Ganges and like getting in, like that's like very customary in our culture that the ashes go back to where you're from earth. Basically.
Yeah. But we also, from a different perspective, also I personally felt this connection always with the ocean. And that is connected with other places, with Mark and Philip and other places in the world. And fast forward, the gear after this trip remained at my place with permission of Marijke, the widow of the wife of Mark. And then I had my injury by running, and I said, okay, but I don't want to. I teach spinning for 15 years, and which was cool, but it was indoors between four walls, and I said, I don't want to do that anymore, but I can't run anymore as well. Yeah. Okay, what to do then? But I have these PULLKs. Why don't use it again? So I start using it, but I couldn't run with this PULLK because of my injury. But I said, okay, but when I scoop in more sand, it's actually the same intensity, using more of my upper body. So, it's actually a really cool exercise. And on Friday, I had my Father's Day, Daddy's Day. So my two daughters also, every week, I took them.
Started joining you for your experiment, prototyping.
Exactly. But it was just, it was never the idea in the beginning to develop it further to a kind of new sport. But service. It was just a personal way of, okay, this is a cool way to stay fit and to have fun. Yeah. So it was a beautiful site with two daughters, one on the other side, on both sides, and blankets, and one with a bear and one with the dog, dolls. And when Daddy was a little bit exhausted, I had my recovery and playtime. Yeah. And then we continue. So I did that many times, and of course, it's quite remarkable to see a person walking with a PULLK on the beach. Yeah. So I got a lot of people came
grabbed attention.
What are you doing? And then, but that's already I think 1.5 years later. So I'm now talking about summer or 2017. Yeah. And then one time there was a kind of boot camp club, and this lady, you are the first, but the way she pronounced it and saying it was a little bit like, okay, really good idea, and I'm going to use this idea for my classes. Of course, was my interpretation. I didn't ask, but I really felt oh no, you're not going to use this idea
Right.
for your, just for, okay, that's cool, and I'm now using it for my class. So that was actually a little bit of fear of loss uh, of what I just created. That really was the trigger. Okay, before it's too late, or before somebody else is doing it with the
Trademark.
wrong motivation,
Yeah.
just about commercially motivation or something else. Said, okay, the best homage, best tribute
Tribute.
to my friends is to. Well, I really felt, okay, I have to do it for them.
Yeah.
Best way is to create and now give it go and launch it as a new sport, because I really
Right.
found out also with people I just sometimes invite to join me
Yeah.
that it was really good. And I also saw that, okay, a very good athlete was able to join me, but my mother as well. And my mother is not that good athlete, but both were able to
The
have a good,
range of athletes,
exactly,
like you
Yeah.
can service more.
just like spinning, which is also very interesting. That
Yeah.
you can serve also very varied people with different physics.
Okay. Yeah.
But so that was the
Wow.
reason, and then this whole process of actually securing the ID, and came up with an ID of the word, which didn't exist.
Yeah.
So with
That's
PULLKA.
PULLKA. Yeah.
PULLKA, and normally it's PULK,
Yeah.
and which is
Also very, I would say, peppy name as well. Right? Like
peppy name, yeah.
like it's just like sounds like, oh, I want to do that, like kind of a fun thing. I think that will I think it will also appeal to the younger masses
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Very wise.
To be honest, it was more. It was really based on a kind of, okay, this is then a thoughtful research report based on the different names.
Yeah.
It was just an evening with friends and beer that
Yeah.
came out, and then to say, okay, this is a good name.
That's when data is the most best served with friends and beer. Like, I think it works. Like, see, like the amount of following that you have already in just matter of few years, and specifically during these times. Well, pandemic helped you. That's another thing. But like, it's perfect timing, and I was more inspired to go for the session because of the motivation, to be frank. Because I do believe that when you do something beyond yourself, like to serve, in this case, you wanted to tribute to your friends who were already doing such a noble, who were serving such a noble cause to save Mother Earth. And also like how you could turn your grief into something such a powerful message for the world, for the environment, for human, which is incredible. Congratulations. I'm really feel even more connected to this whole concept. And I hope you go beyond 27 countries and make it like an international trademark, and may this motivation drive you to even go even bigger. Thank you for sharing the story.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's always good and very nice to dive deeper in it and share with people who are honestly interested in the background, to share this share this story.
Yeah, can you tell something about we heard about the positive part of the story, how you turned it into grief, but how did you deal with the loss when you heard first time that I think they were your very close friends from maybe long time?
Yeah, well, it was about 10 years and 7 years,
Yeah.
that I knew them, but also in a very intense period that they had a really beautiful project. Philip had. He was one of the first who crossed over the Greenlandic ice cap on with their own resources, and based with wind and. But he went into a pitorak. We call is a very fierce storm. Which can kill you and can rip your tent in pieces, and as soon as your tent is gone, you will be die. But he survived. But during that evening, he said, and I don't want to be confusing that much, but he won a prize by the WWF when he was a teenager, and he was, I think, when he was 14 years old, I thought, 2000. 15 years old. He went to Antarctica. He won a prize because he had collected so much money for WWF for nature that he was awarded to visit scientists and explorers in Antarctica. And there he met Mark.
Wow.
And there he was. Mark was impressed by his motivation,
Passion,
and they connected. And Philip, his really purpose was, I want to be an explorer and a polar expedition leader as well. And when he was sent to Antarctica, he had a kind of, well, not a farewell party, but this event was, he was waved goodbye by our current king, was then the prince. And he had it was a really good conversation. And when he was years later in this pitorak, in this storm, he said, I really want to show our future king the power, but also the fragileness of the Arctic. And so he shared it with Mark, and they came up with a really beautiful concept called Mishi Sila. And it was a multidisciplinary field trip by our king, but also by our current Minister of Education, the Professor Dijkgraaf, but also by the WWF. And then I came also into play because I had a connection with the Greenland government, and I was really on the soft side, being on with a beautiful project on culture and the indigenous people of Greenland. And there they took really a lot of effort, but in May 2011, it has been realized, and we were with our current king for 4 days, with researchers from University Utrecht, a glaciologist, paleontologist, a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge from also the European Space Agency, and they were there was there for especially for Philip, something that they really it was that they had succeeded, because now it's not possible anymore. But being a king, you can't even have him for 10 minutes.
No, but that was like a good moment. Yeah,
it was a really good moment.
Yeah,
and then because it was such an intense but inspiring period, which is where there will also be connections with the Greenland government. It was really a beautiful and broaden our friendship, because we had such a beautiful lot of reunions and being in such an atmosphere so closely on each other, and work 24/7 around the clock to realize it. So it was a really beautiful aspect of it, and so continuing that, and also to try to translate experience from the Arctic to Europe. That's also very interesting and fascinating to do.
Wow, like that's how you processed as well the whole tragedy.
And because of the relationship, it was as soon as we were really into the first month was not about, was on one hand actually because it was an accident that you say, okay, this has happened, because it was really far away, and it's very difficult for
To rescue.
for rescue missions even to go there. So there was a lot of things very unclear, and a lot of just very small pieces of information that you had to connect. So we had a lot of phone calls with friends and with the family, and but it was also this, okay, that as soon as the idea was okay, they have they probably died. The question of the two families for me, okay, can you think about how we can remembering them on an event, on a memorial, based on my network and the people I know, and what I've been on before that. And that was actually what I did the 6 months after, working every minute I had besides my job as a producer, and for this memorial, where what was in the World Forum in The Hague, with about 1,600 people, and it was so beautiful that all these people, from artists, from famous people, from Floortje Dessing to André Kuipers, our astronaut, to Dijkgraaf, to Princess, that everybody was, even in the World Forum as well, everybody was saying, okay, this is so important, this is about them, but it's broader. It can be, just like I just said, can be connected to how we deal with our Earth, and what they did and what they left for us. This is not only looking back, but also, okay, how can we, what they were doing, how can we take it to the next generation, and what should we do ourselves?
Right.
So it was not only looking back, but also try to inspire people to do with their own talents and their own expertise and their own small or large amount of time, what they can do. And and actually just telling what Mark and Philip did with words, but also by visually, was really
very powerful, because I think I also believe in that like every like big storm that is in your life is also for a reason, and if you can draw the learning and the future, that can also give you a huge power to future, because all these things happened also to you to invent this whole sports concept and also bring it to the world, and also like it's already in this mode of expansion. So like every like the message that I draw from here is that, like, there are times that you will feel heartbroken, and that also can have a bigger meaning, and it's a great story to realize the power of grief as well.
Yeah, and then you see a lot of so many beautiful, inspiring examples around the world, how grief has been transformed into very powerful activities to create a certain
right from science to
exactly
like culture to connection to every aspect of our life that can be there. I want to like, apart from all these beautiful things, I want to like quickly touch on, because you spoke about your job very briefly, which is also very interesting. So can you just give like a small brief
well, that was after my study in with the focus on non-Western history and Arctic studies. I became a curator in the Hague, in the museum. And the museum is a really cool museum for families, for school groups, and more professionals as well. We now merge with the Omniversum, which is our neighbor, and they have a full dome theater, and there you can in the theater, which is this a size of a half football pitch screen.
Right.
You can see the beauty and the uniqueness of our world.
Yeah.
And in the
Is it the planetarium like
almost yeah
like this?
It's a curved
screen ones, like,
really big.
Ooh, wow, I want to go.
And in the museum we really try to focus on sustainable development.
Okay.
And that's actually the nice connection with PULLKA also is I really get a lot of energy to not to put me in the spotlight, but to in my job at the museum is now to give the podium, to give the spotlight to people, scale up startups who really on their way trying to make this world a bit better.
Wow.
So there's a guys who are really changing the sport industry, that they want to have plastic-free clothing.
Right.
Or people who are trying to say, okay, we want to harvest, we want to use chewing gum. We can use it actually as a instead of waste, we should see it as a resource for many varieties of products, from shoes to garbage bins again, closing the loop. So fashion industry, clothing industry, food, that algae are a source. Okay, they need CO2, so you can donate your CO2 in this algae bar, where algae grow and algae break up our CO2 actually. So
it's a platform.
And they produce oxygen.
Wow.
So to give a platform to meaningful innovators who are really doing their way of creating a better world, more equal, more healthy, more sustainable. So that's really cool.
So if our audience is also doing some cool innovative project, can also contact you to be in the museum platform.
Yeah, and we try to on our way. We really try with a interactive way. Actually, really cool conversation with Fair Coffins. And they we're just talking about death. Yeah. And death, of course, is a part of life. Mm-hmm. But that meaning that a lot of people are buried and went to a crematorium. Yeah. But it's also very an industry with a lot of elements just burned. With there's a lot of, for example, a lot of wood and a lot of metals in this industry were just used one time, right?
One time. It goes inside, yeah.
And they are really changing this, want to change this industry by creating a hard box coffin with all these requirements needed. But it's really interesting to see change makers actually, and this is just one example, but it's also in the renovation and how people can connect more with nature, but also one who is turning urine to drinking water. How people having a wetsuit with which is much more sustainable than the mass produced ones from some Asian countries. So all the time I'm just seeing very inspiring stuff.
So your work is also is very, very powerful, and it gives you a lot of energy to see people doing so cool stuff. Like you yourself, you are doing so cool stuff.
Yeah,
so.
But yeah.
Yeah, good. That's beautiful. And I think that's also a cool way to maybe start rounding up our conversation. Because we spoke a lot about, right from sports, the importance of moving and how it is important, and also the inside motivation, how important that is. The final like question or maybe a brief discussion would be about the importance of also to rest. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I'm very bad in it. I'm really shit.
Yeah, if you're doing so much, yes, I think so.
No, yeah, it is. It's so important, but I have very. I think it cost me a lot of. I think I can learn a lot from you, because you're doing a lot of meditation, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm really jealous, and it requires a lot of discipline to build it up. And yeah, I think a lot of people recognize me with bad habits like watching your mobile in bed, which is really not good.
No, not at all.
Working that too late on your laptop, and then you flip it you flip it down, and 15 minutes later you're in bed, and you're still, of course, processing all your information and that's. I can really be frustrated about myself, because then you see, okay, tomorrow is another big day. Why aren't you just sleeping anymore? Well, okay, because you had to quit earlier in this evening, or don't drink that coffee after 3, of course. And that's so I can't play the guru card here, because I'm really bad in and it's also last November. Actually, my body just pulled the electricity cable out of my body. It was just I just fell down for 20 seconds, completely blackout. Well, my wife and other my parents-in-law, everybody was, of course, very scared, because you're such a sportive guy.
Sporty, healthy.
But that's the problem. If you don't take the rest, sooner or later, with some people, it turns out it become a burnout. And with me, it was a kind of like the machine. My body said, "Okay,
Collapsed
you
for a
really
while.
have to quit this stupid way of living. Okay, you can't produce all the time, and then so the fuel was gone. So it was kind of Control Alt Delete. So really made me realize, okay, I have to change my behavior.
Yeah.
And really trying, but not always successful.
No.
Try to take this rest, but also not only during the night, which of course very, very important, but also during daytime. Try to walk instead of immediately cycling, and or even more bad cycling and watching your mobile.
Yeah.
I didn't do that, but I see so many people doing it, and or at least listen to something. And sometimes your mind has to be needs some quietness. That's why I think being outside is actually my
meditation. That's your meditation.
Yeah, but also my security, that it not turn out into a burnout. That I have my moments, that there is no mobile, that there is no distraction, that there is no news. And that's actually being in nature. That's why it's so important. So I kind of agree more, but it's for me it's a very it's hard work to do nothing.
And that's what I think we as a society, there is a bit polarity on this, right? Like people who are hustlers, they're like hustle, and they almost even I find it quite difficult to actively rest.
Yeah.
Like sleeping is another thing, but to actively be awake but still not look into your phone, not look into your TV, not talk, not read, and just be quiet and like try to like be calm and be okay with it. That's quite tough. Or other way around, that like when you like are like taking too much in the rest mode, you get sedentary, don't feel like doing anything, lazy, and all these things which we spoke about, that it's just also not good.
Yeah, it's
And
finding the right balance, of course.
yeah, the right balance. And like it's so important that like, you know, leaders like you also like talk about like, yeah, let's balance it out, let's connect to nature, let's go out there, save mother nature, save us, live with a bigger purpose, and yeah,
Yeah, and
work out.
it's a topic where there are a whole podcast series and books about. But one thing that is really helpful is breathing and breath work itself. So
Yeah,
I also did a course with the renowned Patrick McEwen, which is a really breathing expert, and
right,
that's so it was really for me very powerful, because you can do it everywhere,
yeah,
and
anytime.
with these insights, when you know these insights, really fun, but also very mindful. So
Yeah, you have to come to the now, you have to come to
exactly,
your breath, you can't focus on an article or like
yeah,
workout and same time like focus on your breathing to calm down. Like, yeah, that's a very
yeah, and don't
cool
walk.
message.
I'm really angry with me, and I
Oh,
don't walk with my mobile, watching my mobile anymore. Very
good.
small things, but very important.
Yeah, discipline is the key.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. I am going to close this conversation with one final like traditional style.
Yeah. I'm curious.
So the style is like the whole concept is I'm going to ask you give you some random one-liners or questions or like statements, and you have only one line answer to give. So think before you speak.
Yeah.
And there are no counter arguments or discussions or like you
Only afterwards, probably.
like that's for the audience to derive. So, and also an option is to not have any comment about it. Like we
Then
don't
I'm
need to
really
have,
fast.
like I don't also like, for example, if you ask me questions around politics, I'm like, huh, like I don't know much about it. So it's like that as well.
Okay.
But you know, because you are like you have such a great ideas and thoughts around and opinions about the world and also about people, I thought like maybe topics outside we have spoken about, just to know about your comment would be fun.
Okay. I think the biggest challenge is to answer it in one sentence.
Yes. So are you ready?
I'm trying.
Okay. So the first one is future is cryptocurrency.
No.
Okay, no comment. Um, Slavery is over.
No, definitely not. And this is the one of the most disgusting events this year, this World Cup Qatar thing, and but it's not only there, but also even even in the Netherlands. So we should be much more aware, and we should share those stories about it.
Beautiful. Emotions are weakness.
No, emotions are a strength for new ideas, new concepts, new programs.
Body positivity or body neutrality.
Body positively. This is the when you focus on your positive sides, you get more energy and you're getting in the right loop and the vicious circle, but then upwards.
Oh. Mm, white men rule.
Unfortunately, in many parts, in many sectors, it is, but still the same sentence. Fortunately, there is much more attention than a few decades ago. So I wish, on behalf of my daughters, that this statement is in a few decades not necessary anymore.
Love it. Talking about kids. Parents fuck up their kids no matter what.
No, because there are so many inspiring children and parents that it's a bit. I like the statement, but two sentence.
Okay, go for it.
But I agree with that there is a tendency to secure everything, to fend off children before that there is should be no danger at all.
No.
Let kids play and be adventurous, and that's I think something what a lot of parents, at least in this country, totally forget.
Right.
So then they really fuck up their children.
Less control is better. Cool. Okay. Maybe one last one. So this is about, maybe Asians. Asians are nerds.
How many Asians are here in the world?
Quite.
Yeah.
we almost are like ruling right now in population. Majority.
And what's your definition of a nerd?
When you see especially in American movies, and also if you come to Netherlands, if you see all the IT work or like tech stuff, like coding stuff, it's very much Asian. So whenever you look like there is an Asian in the street, must be doing a tech job. Well, I'm
That's
also
why.
doing.
That's why we need more museums and documentary photographers and journalists to show that this is false and that there is so much diversity also among Asians.
Yeah.
That you cannot stay that and actually dive into, and you see so much beautiful people with unique stories.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit perhaps cheesy answer, but
I love it.
In my opinion, the right answer.
Great, and that's why we need more museums and like awareness and diversity around this topic. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I had super fun, Diederik, to have this conversation. I felt really inspired by your story, but also Mark and Philip's story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for doing PULLKA. Thank you for bringing it to the world. I wish you bring it to India as well. If it goes to India, it will go to all parts of the world.
I know in Goa, right? They have beautiful beaches.
Yeah. Like it's like a coastal country. So like Goa is in the western side, but like there is a huge. So you have like
plenty of beaches. Yeah.
So all my friends right there who are living in the coast, I just would really insist that you try PULLKA. Get in touch with Diederik and
clean up the mess.
Yeah, and clean the mess. Clean the mess. Yes. Yeah, we need to do it. Let's get up and do it. On a final note, anything that you would like to share with the audience? Any final notes?
Well, the most final note I just can think about is turn on your play mode and let the magic happen.